It's time for Common Man.
Oh, boy.
Common Man. Charms your housewives like no one can. What'd you shoot?
Where'd we play?
Non-stop nonsense on deck today. Tune in. It's time for Common Man.
Why should anybody aspire to be a common man, an average man? Do you realize what it means to be average? That means you're the best of the lousiest, and the lousiest of the best. Now, if we demand more and more for producing less and less, while the have-not nations encourage and inspire and indeed require hard work and maximum effort, if we deify the common men while they encourage and reward the uncommon ones, well, the end result of such a lopsided race as that is too obvious to require elaboration.
I mean, it's like, hello?
Mark, they can't pitch. They can't hit. What is with? I mean, come on.
Timberwolves superfan KFAN Dan Barrero.
Thank you.
Nobody cares. Get over it!
You know, I didn't like the way we were playing in sack, so I just told them, hey, you're going to live and die with me. Y'all, don't nobody like it, sit your ass down right here. Don't come out here, but we coming through me. You know, that's why I like Sam to come in. You know, I let them do their things for 3 quarters, come 4th quarter, bring it to the ticket.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're seeing what a sophisticated offensive game plan looks like. You talk about...
You find this funny, Mr. Grove? You're smiling. Do you find this humorous? No, they're not. Do you find this humorous, Mr. Grove? You're laughing and smiling. I'm just wondering if you do. You didn't answer my question, Mr. Grove. Do you find this humorous?
No, I find it keeping the 4 years.
At least you're not smiling and laughing now. Oh, I guess you're back at it again now.
We're going to South Carolina and Oklahoma and Arizona and North Dakota and New Mexico. We're going to California and Texas and New York. And we're going to South Dakota and Oregon and Washington and Michigan. And then we're going to Washington, D.C. to take back the White House. Ah!
What do you think of my defense now? Welcome back to the spotlight, young man.
Nice to be back.
He's the clown from Brown. He's the 4th in the North. This is the common man, Dan Cole.
Don't call it a comeback. Do you know what commercial campaign that's from, Tennessee? Jeep. Well, on TV.
I know the song it's from.
They're showing the Jeeps, and the guy would go, don't call it a comeback. Like he was mad about it. Because, you know, like, we've been here all along.
Yeah.
Jeep has been around a long, long time. Remember that bit I did where I owned Deuce has a Jeep now. I had a Jeep Wrangler, a 97 Jeep Wrangler, and I just loved it. And, you know, my wife used it as a regular car, and then once we got 90,000 miles on it or so, she needed to move on. We had kids. Jeep wasn't going to work with the car seats and all that, right? So instead of trading the Jeep in, I said, well, I'm going to keep this because you take the top off and you got a convertible. It's just cool to have, right? And what I didn't know I guess, Tennessee, already you're probably lost in this because it's a Jeep thing you wouldn't understand. That's what Jeep people used to say to each other. It's a Jeep thing. Did I ever tell you when I was at the stoplight, and a white Jeep pulls up next to me and a beautiful, vivacious blonde is behind the wheel? Being the radio Romeo, she takes a look over at me and she goes, I like your Jeep.
Yeah, baby.
I go, I like yours too. And then we just went in different directions. I'm spoken for, right? So we went in different directions. But I told you about the Jeep wave thing, right?
Yeah.
Where, you know, people would wave at me. I'm like, what are they waving at me for? Do they know me? Do they recognize me? I mean, much like Paul Allen. You're on an airplane. A woman's looking at you. You obviously think she recognizes you, and you're convinced she's dying to take a selfie with you, right? So I'm thinking these people must know me. Why they wave? And then I find out it's the Jeep wave you're supposed to wave. So then I said, well, that's silly. But then you kind of get caught up in it, right? And you go, okay, well, I'm going to start waving. Well, so then they're not waving at me anymore. Nobody's waving. Now I'm getting annoyed with people. It's like, don't you wonder if you're driving a Jeep?
Don't be rude.
Yeah, wave. Don't you know it's a Jeep thing? You must understand.
They might not know it's a Jeep thing.
I guess not.
I never knew that.
Well, yeah, but they owned one, so they should have known. You don't wave at somebody in a Jeep unless you're in a Jeep, is what I'm saying. It's like you're driving, what do you have, a Prius?
Honda Pilot.
Honda Pilot. I took you as a Prius guy, really, the
Snag.
Yeah, that you're thinking you're thinking about the environment, what is it with oil? Burn, baby, burn. No, pump.
Drill, baby, drill.
Drill, baby, drill. So, and I don't wave at Jeep like Cherokees or Jeep Compass, Jeep whatever. You just. Then I said, this is my favorite. I said, and you have to have a 2-door Jeep. These 4-door Jeeps ain't going to cut it. These Jeep Wranglers with 4 doors. Did George S. Patton? You know who George S. Patton is, right?
I'm familiar.
Yeah, the World War II tank commander for the United States. Rommel, you SOB, I read your book. You magnificent SOB, I read your book, was the line from the movie Patton starring George C. Scott. George C. Scott. And so I said, I don't wave at 4-door Wranglers because you never saw George Patton wasn't in a George S. Patton. He wasn't in General Patton. Why am I calling? No, it's George C. Scott. Yeah, I think George
F. Scott Fitzgerald.
F. Scott Fitzgerald played George C. Scott playing General George. I think it was General George. Whatever Patton's first. I said you don't see Patton in a 4-door Jeep. Literally. 2 or 3 minutes later, somebody sent to booth at KFAN.com. This was before we had the text line, right? The Bradshaw and Bryan KFAN text line. Sent me a picture of George S. Patton in a 4-door Jeep. So there went my whole bit about 4-door Jeeps. I just didn't think they had 4-door Jeeps back in the day. I thought that was something new that they did, for the public consumer, not the Army, but for, it's like, well, we got to, not everybody's going to want to buy a 2-door Jeep, but we do a 4-door, it'll feel more family oriented, So, why are we talking about this?
I have no idea.
Oh.
Does Nico Medved drive a Jeep or something?
No. I don't know why we got on this topic. It doesn't really matter anymore. Yesterday you brought up, we're going to talk about a topic we don't discuss much, is the Viking quarterback situation. You brought up.
I always love that one.
The Kevin Seifert story from ESPN. Kevin Seifert, who worked for the Fish Wrap Factory Westside for years, now with ESPN, based in Minnesota, covers Minnesota sports, your whole life just sports for ESPN. I think maybe just specifically football. I don't know if he covers any of the other sports.
I think that's it.
And a pretty good gig if you can get in. He's a weekly guest, I think weekly for sure, with Dan Barrow during the football season. I missed this piece because I was coming back to town, I believe, from being out of town in Palm Springs. But I looked it up after you brought it up, and you had mentioned the parts where Kurt Warner, the Hall of Fame quarterback, had some comments about where J.J. McCarthy is, where he's going, where he's at, where he could go, and such like that. But there were a lot of other interesting things in that piece, because we have been trying now for the longest time, at least I've been wondering for the longest time, the Vikings, what was their plan all along to start J.J. McCarthy? They didn't sign Sam Darnold. They didn't franchise Sam Darnold. Danny Dimes decided to leave. Aaron Rodgers expressed interest in coming, but he never did. I was under the assumption we just said, you know what? We got this handled. We can coach this kid up. I'm QB Whisperer. It may be a little bit more complicated than that, according to this piece from Seifert. It says, The Vikings' bigger issue was the teams need to construct its quarterback room before the club would see McCarthy in a full offseason practice. The Vikings have been excited about his future before the injury. This injury, we're talking about the knee injury. And plan to increase his first-team reps when it occurred, but a long period of inactivity had passed since then. The Vikings thought they had a head start after signing Danny Dimes to their practice squad in Week 13 of the 2024 season. Danny Dimes had requested and received his release from the Giants. Darnold was in the midst of a breakout year. With McCarthy set to return in 2025, the Vikings thought Darnold merited more than they could offer him, a long-term starting role. So they did not have any, we knew that. They did not have long-term starting plans. So they didn't want to, I guess, almost as a favor to him, we're not going to franchise him. We're going to let him go. The Vikings could have used the franchise tag to keep Darnold for one more season and another year to develop McCarthy, but they thought Jones provided a more efficient path. As they did with Darnold, the Vikings envisioned Jones as a starting caliber hedge against McCarthy's inexperience and health. Team officials sent strong positive vibes from Dimes throughout the fall and winter. They believed he would sign their offer, which was competitive with the $14 million deal he ultimately signed with the Colts. However, here's the but. The Vikings had misread Jones' level of interest in their scheme and culture. He liked the organization and the people in it, but business was business. A league source said the Colts offered the best fit. In other words, Jones wanted to be on the field in 2025 and thought he had a better chance of overtaking the Colts' young quarterback, third-year pro Anthony Richardson Sr., than McCarthy. The Vikings then turned their deliberations to Rodgers, who was a free agent and had contacted O'Connell to express an interest in signing with them. There are multiple reasons why the Vikings passed, sources say, but one of them was the front office's internal assessment that at 41 he was no longer likely to play at a big game level. Making the playoffs with Rodgers but not winning the big game wasn't an equitable trade-off for delaying McCarthy's ascension, they concluded. Another was the off-schedule nature of Rodgers' playing style, at times assigning routes to receivers at the line of scrimmage by using hand signals or other means. McCarthy wouldn't benefit from watching an offense that he would not be asked to run in future years. At that point, the Vikings had run out of starting caliber options and viewed most of the remaining available quarterbacks in similar ways. And that's when they went the direction of, they went with Sam Howell. They didn't think that was going to work very well. They got scared off by that, and they went out and got Wentz. Carson Wentz had played him, and there were mixed results there. I mean, Wentz, did he go 2-4, 2-5,
2-3, I believe,
2-3 in his 5 starts? So we knew about the conversations with Rodgers, right? I think we all kind of felt that's what it was with Darnold. They just didn't want to commit to 3 years with Sam Darnold, and I guess they felt like it was just, the right thing to do to not franchise him and let him go. Because he'd played so well, go, and I admire that from the Vikings in the front office to me, that they would say, you know what? We're not going to just, have you sit here for, his wife was pregnant, no insurance. No, I'm doing a bit. Anyway.
I always love that one.
But the Rodgers thing, I still think they should have signed Darnold, and I will stick to that's not hindsight. I've had people suggest it's hindsight for those of us that feel that way. That's not. It's not like I said that halfway through the season, said, on second thought, maybe I was all for signing Darnold much earlier, because you search forever to find a franchise quarterback. He's got a few warts. They all do. He seemed to be the guy. The Rodgers thing, they should have went with. That was one. And this idea that because Rodgers ad-libs, McCarthy's not going to learn much. McCarthy can still learn a lot from Aaron Rodgers of what it's like to be a quarterback, what it's like to be a Richard. What it's like to be a good teammate. And the other thing is, I'm so tired of this. Everything, I know the quarterback position is the most important thing, but it's the same thing when people said, well, no, we got to see what McCarthy has, and, we got to do this, we got to do that. No, you know what? We're built to win right now. You look at JJ and go, kid, it's going to be your job eventually, but we have a chance to win right now. I got a chance to get a future Hall of Famer, 4-time MVP. We're going to roll the dice with him. And if Rodgers was awful, then you put McCarthy in that position. Now, would the team have been any better with Rodgers? I don't know. They were 9-8 with a combination of 3 quarterbacks. If they've got Aaron Rodgers, I think he squeezes a couple more wins out of it. So I think it's some.
And why can't we have a young quarterback learn how to ad lib like Aaron Rodgers? It'd be nice to be. I just want a quarterback like that once, like Peyton Manning, who just goes up to the line and goes, "Oh, this is what they're doing. Here's how we're going to beat it." Why does it always have to be the way the offensive coordinator or the head coach has his offense set up.
You're spot on. Why do we have all the answers? Why do we know everything when it comes to sports? I guess that's who we are. It's a burden. It's our cross to bear. It's what we do. We'll break. We'll come back. A little peek at the purple and a little this out live with the Common Man program by the fan.
Wolves fans, join us January 13th at Wildcats in Eagan. It's a Michelob Ultra watch party with KFAN's Max Fuller from 7 to 9 p.m. with trivia, prizes, and drink specials. Get the details at KFAN.com. Keyword calendar.
Couple 13, 14 past here in the Common Man program. I'm Common. He is 10 to B. Peek at the Purple brought to you by our friends at Affordable Electric. AffordableElectric.com is a place to go to. I've got a little message for you that I just received from Affordable Electric, and I'll see if I can find it. I'll get it for you here maybe after our Peek at the Purple, but it's brought to you by Affordable Electric. For all of your electrical needs, regardless of what it is, go with Affordable Electric. Affordable-electric.com. That's affordable-electric.com. And remember, Affordable Electric is shockingly affordable. Go with them soon. Tenneby, you sent me, this is, it's interesting to say the least. It's,
that's interesting.
From Bring Me the Sports. It says, is there a schism between Brian Flores on the Vikings? And if you go to John Krasinski of The Athletic is quoted in this piece. In this, you sent me it was a tweet, and then you sent me a screenshot of it, or a link, whatever they call it. He says, this is what Krasinski says. I can't tell you the exact nature of the conflict or of the drama behind the scenes, but there's something going on that does lead me to believe that it's not a foregone conclusion that B-FLO would stay here to be a coordinator, that he could leave to go elsewhere, which I think would be a disaster for the Vikings, and it would be a terrible look. And that's all I see. I don't know if Krasinski did a deeper dive than that in any of his pieces with The Athletic, as I've not searched high or low for that. But it was, a lot of us tend to have heard things behind the scenes. I'm not an insider by any stretch of the imagination. My source for the Wolves for years was one of the ushers, Al the usher. He was the guy that gave me all my information.
I always loved that one.
Al used to say Al was great. He would talk to me before games, and he'd go, if I was coaching, first thing I'd tell the guy to do is when he comes into the paint, give him a bloody nose. Al coached high school basketball. He goes, give him a bloody nose. He ain't coming back into the paint anymore. Brilliant. But anyway, so I have source here, a source there. I'm not as plugged in as like the national treasure, or certainly not like Mark Rosen. Right? No, I'm certainly not there. But you heard that there was something there with Flores, and you'd wonder because he had not re-signed yet. It could be he didn't want to resign. There might not be a schism at all. It might just be he wants to be a head coach again, and he doesn't want to re-sign. And he's hoping that. And there are currently, is it 6 openings, or is it more than that? Is it just 6 recent NFL head coach openings? It's at least 6, and there might be more, 6, 7.
I think that's about right. Yeah.
And so maybe I think he's. I don't know this for a fact, but I'm sure I saw somewhere he'd like to be head coach again. Why wouldn't he? Now, there's always that little snafu of he's got a lawsuit against the league right now, right? I think racial discrimination, allegedly. I think that's what his lawsuit's all about. And so you wonder how many ownerships want to hire a guy to coach that's got a lawsuit against the league. But he's a hot commodity. He was a head coach for the Dolphins, and I think he did fairly well with the Dolphins, right? They weren't a complete disaster under him, right?
I think they had one good season. Yeah. They were okay.
Yeah, and so oftentimes guys need a second chance, right? Sometimes the situation isn't quite right.
Well, it sounds like, if you remember, part of the reason is it sounds like part of why B-FLO got pushed out is because the ownership wanted them to tank, and he basically was like, "No, not going to do it." So I think he was getting undercutted.
That's right. And again, it's a he said, she said kind of a thing. I think, didn't they deny they ever did that? Didn't ownership? We never did anything, such a thing. Because it wasn't like they were going to pay him $100,000 for each loss or something like that. I shouldn't admit this. A 100,000 watt radio, I'd have taken the money. So you want me to tank $100,000?
I always love that.
I would have bargained. I'd have said, make it $250,000. And we'll lose. Trust me. Man, I'll have my quarterback thrown to double coverage every single time. But anyway, and look, you and I have all the answers. There's not much we don't know. You and I are rarely wrong. But I have underestimated how important coordinators can be. I really have. I've always said, they're important. But if you've got the right personnel who can't, any defensive or offensive coordinator worth their salt, I think that's an old saying. If they're worth their whatever, well, then they can coach those guys up and put a scheme together, but it is more complicated than that. We've seen what happened with Detroit. I mean, Ben Johnson is a perfect example. Detroit was the most explosive offense for 2 years. For 2 years in this league, they were the most explosive offense. They're still pretty good, but they ain't on the level they were with Ben Johnson. They just weren't. Matter of fact, John Morton had to be removed from play calling for Detroit. And then Danny Campbell, I love him, but while he was waiting on the front porch, the opposition was going out the back door after pillaging the entire house. And then B-FLO does make a difference. Now, again, I've always gone with it could have been the personnel and not Ed Donatel. I still stick with that. Ed Donatel was a terrific offensive coordinator over the years. I don't think he had a whole lot to work with because if you'll remember when B-FLO took over, he had a year when they went 7-10 and the defense wasn't very good at all. Then they went out and got some pieces that worked. They got Grenard, Van Ginkel, and some other guys, and Blake Cashman, cash in, cash out. Suddenly that defense played better. Now, I'll give more credit to the coordinator than I used to. I used to think it was more just players. Anybody can coordinate this or coordinate that. So they do make a difference. And B-FLO does seem to be one of the more highly regarded and better defensive coordinators. It would be a loss for the Vikings to lose him. Is it the end of the world? I don't think so. But it certainly wouldn't be a good fit. And if there is some kind of a schism there for whatever reason it might be, and I'm not ready to speculate on it because I'm not an insider.
And I think B-FLO is already kind of like the favorite to get the Vegas job.
That's what somebody told me. Yes,
because Tom Brady's making the decisions now. Tom Brady, B-FLO was the defensive coordinator in New England at points when Brady was there.
I'd like to say you're connecting the dots, but you're actually connecting the X's and the O's. Is what you're doing. Yeah.
And then we're going to get Raheem Morris, who was just fired as the head coach of Atlanta. He's going to take over B-FLO's spot because him and KOC were the coordinators in LA when they won the Super Bowl or won the big game there. Yes, they were the offensive defensive coordinators.
And Raheem is highly regarded as a defensive coordinator, right?
He struggled as a head coach because I think he's had 2 shots at it now.
Well, close circuit to B-FLO. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. No matter how it seems, I think we need Raheem. No matter how it seems, I think we need Raheem. I'm all for it. So anyways, those are just...
We just need 9 to play like 9, then we don't even need a defense.
Yeah. I don't think he... You probably should have waited on the alter ego until you actually established yourself. Make that big step. And then when they say, how did you go from struggling to getting where you are? And he goes, because I now have an alter ego. And then you have your locker look like a phone booth. Clark Kent used to go into the phone booth and come out. People know who Superman is, right? Even the kids do, right? Because haven't they
know.
Superman? So he would step into a phone booth. He was mild-mannered reporter Clark Kent, and he would step out. He'd be Superman. You could have had his locker made to look like a phone booth. And then when he would get there, it would be great for social. Right? They always like to show the film. We always see on YouTube now, you'll see the post-game celebration where they're handing out the game balls and the coach is pumping them all up, great win and all that. You could do a pregame one where you have J.J. McCarthy step into his locker, and then when he comes out, he's 9. How cool would that be? We'll break. We'll come back. Peek at the Purple brought to you by our friends at Affordable Electric. For all of your electrical needs, affordable-electric.com. Remember the shockingly affordable. Back with a little Distat Lat here on the Fan.
Help us thank the educators shaping our future. Nominate a public school teacher for Thank a Teacher, powered by Donors Choose. They could win $5,000 for classroom needs. This week's winner is Alexandra Maraca, a general music teacher at Red Rock Elementary School. Nominate a teacher to thank today at iHeartRadio.com/teachers.
Did you say Red Rock Elementary?
Yeah.
That's where my boys went.
Really?
They both went to Red Rock Elementary. They loved it there. You know what they really like? Where they have the after-school club, when your parents can't be home right after school? And I would go there. They'd always be playing like dodgeball or something. And there was one more minute. They loved being there. I tried to get the school to just have them stay overnight. Did I tell you that my wife and I sat the kids down and said, we've decided we don't want kids? You make that decision when you're married. I think we should have children. We've changed our minds. But there's nothing we could do about it because they're there. And
I always love that one.
We told them we've changed our minds. We don't want kids. And they said, well, too bad we're already here. And they're absolutely right. Someone sent to the Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line, they said, kids may know who Superman is, but they probably don't know what a phone booth is, and that's probably true. Huh? Phone booth? What's that? There was a time before cell phones where you'd go. The phone booth was the coolest thing, too. It had a little folding door. They were just tiny. I mean, like they had a little chair to sit in, a little, bench attached to the wall. But you would get claustrophobic in there in a hurry. If you're claustrophobic, a phone booth is not what you wanted. And you'd climb in there. And then they would have, kids probably know what this is, either a phone book, and they would have it attached to like a chain so you wouldn't steal it, I guess. I don't know who's going to steal a phone book. But
one of my favorite hockey sayings that the kids would no longer understand is, he can stick handle in a phone booth.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
They don't understand that. But now you'll see phone booths at places that have just been, the businesses have kept them, but they don't really have phones in them anymore, but they just think they look cool. Some still actually operate. I've seen them before. But let me guess. You still think that Oklahoma City Thunder Club is the team that you should prop up on a pedestal and idolize and pedestalize? They're poised, they're polished and professional. They take every game seriously. Oh wait, that was me. 6-6 in their last 12, Tennessee, and they got obliterated by the Charlotte Hornets. They got absolutely destroyed by the Hornets.
Yeah.
And I've had.
Not the team you want to get destroyed by.
No, and I've had the negatives and the naysayers, the critics come out of the woodwork to get on me because, look, I think I make no apologies. The Wolves' approach and attitude sometimes bothers me, and I don't know why it doesn't bother other I think it does bother some Timberwolves fans, but others just think, well, no, that's just the way it is. I think there are people that say that's just the way the league is. There are games where sometimes one team just doesn't really care. They're not interested in playing, and they've decided, the other team seems to really be into it tonight, and we're just not really into it. It's just another game of 82, and especially if you're a bad team, it really doesn't make any difference. It's sort of like the Vikings playing out the string and winning those last 5 games. It means nothing other than you won 5 games, and that's cool. You hurt your draft position. You have a 3rd-place schedule rather than a 4th-place schedule. I guess there are people that think there are building blocks there for the next season. I'm not convinced of that. And then there are teams like the Wolves, I think, that just say, we're going to make postseason play anyways. And look, as a 6th seed, they got to the Western Conference Finals last year. So getting the number 1 seed isn't the be-all to end-all. Getting the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, or, just so you're in the top 6 is really where you want to get. My comeback to that, though, would be I give them a little bit of slack because they did win a ship, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they won a ship. Also, my guess is going to be OKC gets everybody's best effort, right?
Sure.
Especially when they were 21-1 or 22-1, whatever that record was. It was like, that's the best team in the league. Let's put our big boy pants on or our big boy basketball shorts. Let's see what we got. Let's see what we can give it to them. And I think that's what happens. I guess it's human nature. And look, they're not that good that they're going to win every single game. We know. We've talked about this, Tenneby. I think sometimes teams think they can flip it. They can turn it on and off like a switch. And if you're a really good team and you're playing the dregs, you can often do that. OKC's earned, to me, a little bit of...
They have equity.
They have equity. Thank you. That's a great word. They have some equity. They've earned that by being poised, polished, and professional, winning a ship. I'll give them a pass. And they are always getting the best effort from teams. I don't think there's a bottom feeder out there that's saying, here come the big bad wolves. We need to huff and puff and blow the arena down, right? I don't think they're treated like the big bad wolf. I don't think. Because even though they're a quality club, they are amongst a number of quality clubs. There's six, seven teams in the West that are kind of that Minnesota Timberwolves like, right? Maybe even in the East. Maybe not as many in the East, but they have that same kind of a team. Then there's this, Tenneby. The Thunder were on the back end of an away home. Back-to-back on an away and home. They had to quickly fly from Phoenix to prepare for that game against Charlotte. Back-to-backs will drain a team, don't you know that? And think about this. Phoenix is around 1,100 feet above sea level. I checked.
That's interesting.
Oklahoma's around 1,285 feet. That's 185 feet of elevation change.
I always love that one.
That Oklahoma City had to deal with. And think about this. There's an hour difference between Oklahoma City time and Phoenix time only because Arizona doesn't do daylight savings time. So it's actually a 2-hour difference, but it's only a 1. How do you think that screws up your circadian rhythms and your body clock? Am I 2 hours ahead or am I 2 hours behind? I'm an hour ahead, I'm an hour behind. 185 feet in elevation change, back-to-back games. Do people not realize how difficult that is, even for world-class athletes, to acclimate themselves to? Give Oklahoma City a pass. Well, that's what everybody said. That's what everybody tells me.
Yeah.
I'm the guy and look.
I can't dispute it.
Yeah, everybody says that. They all say, anytime I go, well, that's just nonsense. That's preposterous. 5-star hotels, chartered jets, finest food, massage therapists, 2 sometimes more expensive than 1, but well worth it.
I always
that's
love
an
that
old
one.
inside joke from 25 years ago here at the Fan. And I'm still not going to reveal what it's about. I mean, think about they have chef-inspired creations for food, the best food in the world. But I'll tell you what, 185 feet in elevation change. Then think about that. Think about how much.
It's a big difference.
Oh, it's a big difference.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like I say, you don't know, am I an hour? Is my body clock an hour off or is it 2 hours?
You don't know what time it is.
So you don't even know what time.
What day it is.
You don't know what city you're in.
Yeah.
That's another old inside joke at the Fan. I don't even know what city I'm in. So,
did the San Antonio Spurs break the Thunder?
Well,
because they beat them 3 times in a couple weeks stretch.
Yeah.
And up until that point, I'm sure OKC just thought they were invincible and had all the confidence in the world. And now you start doubting yourself a little bit. Oh, does this team can take us down?
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you what. Who plays for OKC?
Victor Wembanyama.
The player that Mark Rosen wouldn't trade Anthony Edwards for in a million years, he said.
And by the way, the Spurs have a message for the OKC Thunder.
Objects in your mirror may be closer than they appear.
If Wembanyama stays healthy, I'm about to say something controversial.
That's interesting.
He's going to go down as the greatest player in the history of the National Basketball Association.
Wow.
I know we all love Michael, and he was really good. I want to be like Mike. I like that. Sometimes I think that he were me. Oh, if I could be like Mike. I like that. I think I might come up with a little jingle as, my alter ego, my rap ego. I want to be Lil Long Johns. So yeah, there's a little equity there, but I will say, I don't know what Oklahoma State's doing or Oklahoma City's doing. I mean, what are you doing? How do you can't. I mean, circle the wagons. I don't care how far, and if you look at the stats from the game, Tennessee, Oklahoma City, it was really a difference between shooting percentages. Oklahoma City couldn't make anything. Their shooting percentages were as low as they've been all year, or among some of the lowest. And if you look at the shooting percentage for Charlotte, they were shooting like 50% from three-point line. If those two teams played the best 4 out of 7, it's 4-0, right?
Yeah.
It's playoff time. So,
and Charlotte probably wouldn't even get to single digits.
No, exactly.
It'd be a double-digit loss every game.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
OKC's 6-6 in their last 12.
That's exactly right. 6-6,
including a loss to your Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yes, and so maybe the apple's off the orange. No, what's it? The shine is off the. There's an old saying in Tennessee, and all there is in Texas. It's something about the shine is. It's something about it's not glossy and new and shiny. It's not a shiny toy anymore. They've been brought back down to earth. What are the standings in the West? Are you looking at it right now? I mean,
yeah.
San Antonio's how many back?
OKC is now 30-7. Spurs are 4 games back, but just 3 in the loss column. They're 25-10. It's pretty jammed up after OKC. The Wolves are only 2.5 games out of being in second in the West. Spurs 25-10, Lakers 22-11, Nuggets 24-12, Rockets 22-11, Timberwolves 23-13.
Yeah.
But we're 2.5 games back of second-seeded San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah, I know we're not out of it, and we've played. While I was away, they lost back-to-back games. The Wolves, including a awful loss to the Nets. And the quote from Anthony Edwards, was, I saved it here. It's really good, Tennessee. He says, Dateline Atlanta, Anthony Edwards declined to speak to the media after the Timberwolves' most embarrassing loss of the season, 126-102 to the Atlanta Hawks on Wednesday. But a singular action of his late in the game spoke loud and clear about his frustration level. In a timeout huddle with about 8 minutes remaining, Edwards threw his towel in the air and walked off the floor. This came 4 days after Edwards threw this jab after his team's low-energy, lackluster showing in a loss to the Brooklyn Nets. I guess this is just Timberwolves basketball.
I always love that one.
So that was after the Nets lost, and then they lost, and ended up losing to the Hawks on Wednesday. But it was after the Nets. That was where that Finch decided to pull all the starters from the game with 7 minutes to go. And Edwards was annoyed by that. And Finch came out and said he shouldn't have done that. And I think Edwards probably knows, but, Tennessee's young. That's what we like to say about guys that make mistakes. Well, they're young. J.J. McCarthy's young. That's still that McCarthy thing about he was told. I read something that it took that even a bit deeper. He was told in practice, right, by the head coach. He did the celebration, and he said, don't do that during the game.
Apparently he fumbled it in practice, or he bobbled it or something.
Yeah, and then he did it anyway. And you know what his comment was? Well, I'm more apt to want to do something when I'm told not to. I saw the quote.
It was bizarre.
So he actually said, I defied, when the coach tells me to do something, I'm more apt to not do what he says to do. Now, I don't think he's going to call off a play at the line of scrimmage, but maybe he would. I don't know.
I will say, I feel like JJ or 9 lacks a little self-awareness. Maybe it's an immaturity thing. If you're Pat Mahomes, you can go against your coach like that.
Right.
When you haven't done anything in the National Football League, one, you don't tell everyone your name is 9.
Right.
You don't do that because you haven't accomplished anything yet. And you also don't acknowledge, hey, I went against my coach when you're at the level that he's at.
Yeah.
And not only go against your coach, but acknowledge it publicly. Like, it's just, he's acting as if he's reached a certain level yet, and he hasn't.
Yeah.
Once you get to that level, you can get away with some of that stuff.
That is correct. And again, it goes back to the practicing the celebrations. They all do it. They all have it. I mean, the ones that get me are when the defense makes a big play, like an interception or something. And then the guy that makes the play will be running to the end zone. He's waving his buddy, come on now, we're going to do our little celebration thing. And they're harmless. I mean, they don't bother me. It's just they don't do anything for me, and I'm not for them or I'm not against them, whatever they want to do. But, so you shouldn't leave the court. And I get it. You're frustrated. The one thing I will say about Ant, who lives rent free in my head, I think he wants to win, and he wants to win now. And that's not to suggest that the other players don't want to either. But I seem to think he gets real frustrated with it. I guess I'm going to just have to accept. I don't like it, and I don't really have to accept it. I guess I do. I just have to accept that. The National Basketball Association, that's just the way it rolls. There, because now I don't know if the Thunder just were kind of going through the motions. If they, if they were, because the Wolves, if there have been comments from the Wolves, Anthony Edwards a couple of weeks ago said, just seems like we don't want to play these games. We just want to get right to the playoffs. We're just not interested in these games. And we hear about lack of effort and doing this and doing that, not being connected and try to play too much hero ball. Maybe all the teams do that, all the good teams. I didn't think they did. I did think the Thunder were immune to that. It sure looked like it. You win a ship last year. You start off with, they're on record at the greatest. I mean, through 20-some games, they were on pace to lose like 4 games. Now, you knew that probably wasn't going to hold. But you still looked at. I look back on there was a highlight from when I think it was the first time San Antonio beat Oklahoma City this year, when Holmgren got a shot blocked by Wembanyama. How many times did Chet Holmgren get his shot blocked? Not often, because he's 7'1". Ain't many guys taller than him in the league. No. Probably the only guy. There might be a 7'2" guy floating around there somewhere. Well, if you're 7'2", you don't float because you're pretty big, but you know what I'm saying. So. But
even like a lot of those 7'1" guys can't guard him because they're not athletic enough, so you can't really put one of those guys on him.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Here's a text message that says, I see Ant is listed as questionable tonight against the Heat with a foot injury. Is it a foot injury or is it a punishment for leaving the basketball court before the game ended? I don't think it's that. It could be.
I don't think they'd hide behind an injury. I don't think Finch is one of those guys.
No, I don't think so either. Ant has been out with that foot injury thing a few times. Do you think Ant doesn't believe in load man? Isn't Ant the guy that doesn't believe in load management? He wants to play all the time. So I don't think this is a load management thing either, because I could see, I'm sure teams hide behind that, don't they? Ankles bothering them. Because that's the way you can just say, well, instead of coming out
without
and saying,
fans getting mad at you.
Instead of coming out and saying, well, no, he's going to take it. He's going to get a load management game. He's getting a day off because we have to keep guys fresh and ready to go once we get to postseason play. That's where, in the NFL, to me, the last week or two of the season can be less than, what's the word I'm looking? You got Green Bay. Prime example. And I don't blame them. Love isn't, all their best players are on the bench. And it's like, so, I mean, you knew Minnesota was going to win that game, right? That's one of those games. Now, the point spread thing, you brought that up yesterday, that field goal change of point spread. But if you're just betting straight up, that's why I'm not a big point spread guy, but I guess that's the only way you can legally bet is they all have point spreads.
Oh, you can bet them straight up. You just don't, you don't get the same price.
Okay, you don't get the same price.
Yeah, so.
Because that would have been a game I would have just said, well, I'm betting on Minnesota. I don't care if Brosmer ends up going in for the second half. I mean, because Green Bay was not going to. The head coach of the Vikings wants to win games. He thinks it's important to stack those wins going into next year with a good feeling. And Green Bay's like, we've got nothing to gain from playing our starters.
And you can give the Vikings a worse draft pick, too.
Well, that's it. And so, there were other games all across the league the last 2 weeks where there were teams I just don't think they were trying. But I understand it. You just have to accept that. I know there are people that are frustrated with it. I had a friend of mine text me and said, the NFL at the end of the season is just a joke. Well, yeah, but if you're a team, if you're a fan of a team that's in postseason play, you'd rather have them rest their players than go all out and lose 2 key guys to season-ending injuries, or at least even a week or 2 injuries. So anyway, let's do this. Let's pause and come back, and when we do, the legendary one, Mark Rosen, will join us next here on the Common Man program on the Fan.